It's often said that the FAA has three different definitions for night. This isn't entirely true. 14 CFR 1.1, General Definitions, defines night as follows. Night means the time between the end of evening civil twilight and the beginning of morning civil twilight, as published in the Air Almanac, converted to local time. That's the only definition of night provided by the FAA. Sunset is defined as the moment the top edge of the sun drops below the horizon. At this point, it's still pretty bright out, with atmospheric refraction keeping the sky bright even though the sun is technically set. The sky gets gradually darker as the sun sinks further below the horizon. Astronomers define twilight by the angle of the center of the sun relative to the horizon in 6-degree increments. Not until the sun is 18 degrees below the horizon is it properly dark, around 90 minutes after sunset. The first tick mark below the horizon, 6 degrees, is known as civil twilight. It is this stage that the FAA chose to use as its definition of nighttime. There is no astronomical meaning to 1 hour or any other time after sunset or before sunrise. Astronomers think in these angular degrees. The Air Almanac, published by the U.S. Navy, is not the easiest place to actually find these times, but they are in there. On May 14, 2026, at 45 degrees north latitude, evening civil twilight begins at 19:55 local standard time, or 8:55 p.m. daylight saving time. Operationally, this means that unless a regulation says differently, civil twilight will be the default definition for night. This comes up only in a few places. First, in Part 61, the regulation for logging night flight, and then in 2 places in Part 91. The Class Golf visibility and cloud clearance requirements bump up at night, which means at civil twilight. Finally, in 91.205, the VFR night equipment requirements, fuses and lights and so on, start at night, meaning civil twilight. All the rest of the regulations go into more detail and use one of the other answers. For example, the 91.209 requirement to use position lights says specifically during the period from sunset to sunrise, which overrides the default definition.